Welcome to our webinar today. I'm Leisa Reid. I'm so excited to have you here. And we are going to be talking about how to attract your clients through speaking. And I mean, yes, even now. So I'm very excited to get started. And I cannot wait to deliver this information to you. So let's go ahead and get started. I am going to share my screen. And I do want to let you know you can certainly ask questions in the chat, and I will try to get to them as much as I can and answer those questions live. And I'll also give you an opportunity to, if you have questions for me individually, I'll give you an opportunity to be able to schedule that as well. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen right now. Very exciting. Let's get started. So here we are. And there we go. Just get that situated. All right, we're going to talk about attracting your clients through speaking, and I do mean yes, even now. Very excited to be here today. You're really in the perfect place if you want to use speaking to build your business and gain clients. So hopefully if you're on this call, that's you, because my goodness, I had no idea several years ago how powerful speaking can be. But I am definitely one of those people who loves to utilize my time really effectively. And I love knowing when there's kind of a hack, like, ooh, how can I like exponentially grow my business? And speaking, where you kind of go from the one-to-one to the one-to-many, is definitely a hack for sure. And it's really fun, especially for those of us who really like to speak. So it's kind of cool. You also might be thinking like, oh, I really, really want to speak, but I just don't really know how to get started. Like the desire's really strong and the desire's there. It might have been sleeping in there for a little while, but there's still sometimes it's like, well, I just don't know what steps I'm supposed to take to get there. And so we're going to cover a lot of that today. Another thing that I hear a lot from speakers is that they're really great at speaking, like they love it, but maybe the results that they're getting aren't as consistent. Like it's not so much when people come to me, they're not scared to speak necessarily. I mean, not that none of us ever get nervous, but it's not like, oh, I'm so terrified. Can you help me get over my fright? Those aren't the people I help. There's people that do help with that. That's not my area of specialty. But where I am helpful is, I've been speaking and sometimes people really love my stuff. Sometimes I sell a lot, sometimes I don't. I'm not really sure like where to get those consistent results. So if that's you, or you haven't had enough speaking engagements to even know if they're consistent or not, then you're definitely in the right place. You might have some speaking engagements booked in the future. Sometimes I notice that I'll get clients who are kind of freaked out a little bit because they have a gig and it's a really exciting opportunity, and they know that they're not quite ready yet. Like, oh, I got to get my all my ducks in a row because I have this event. I don't want to blow it, right? I don't want to wing it or lose that opportunity. And unfortunately, sometimes I also get people after the fact where they did blow it and they really regret that, and they think, okay, I don't want to do that again. So hopefully we can catch you before that happens. A lot of times, like I had mentioned before, I have found one of the similarities with speakers is that I've yet to meet a speaker who hasn't had this, where you kind of have this dream of speaking, where you're at an event, you see the speaker and you're like, I should be up there. That should be me. Or someday I'm going to be up there, right? Like we have this message kind of brewing inside of us, and it's super exciting. I find that really exciting, a little scary, but that's what dreams are. It's like, ooh, something maybe you haven't done yet, but you've always known that you have the potential to do that. So occasionally I do get someone who has a speaking engagement and is really dreading it. And for any of if that's you out there, that's it. That is more rare for people to come to me with that. But certainly if you know someone who's in that situation, or that's you, that's definitely a time to engage in some coaching so that we can lower that anxiety, increase the confidence, increase the certainty, so you know what you're going to talk about, why you're going to talk about it, and how it can be really effective for you. So those are just to give us a frame for if you're in any of these categories, you are so in the right place. I would say this is not for you if you are looking for some magic pill that's like, all I have to do is this one thing for 5 minutes and my phone's going to be ringing off the hook and I never have to, do any work to get a speaking engagement. I mean, no, that's, gosh, I don't have that skill. I wish I was a magician like that. But there is, what I will say is that there are lots of strategies that you can do that are low cost. There are lots of things that you can do that are fully in your wheelhouse that can get you these results. And I don't mean working a ton or, you know, adding a whole bunch to your plate. I mean integrating it with what you already do. But yes, there's going to be some action that one would take to get a different result, of course. So I mention that because sometimes I have people approach me and they don't have any speaking experience and they want, like, I want to be a paid keynote speaker and I want to make $30,000 in one keynote. And I'm like, well, how many talks have you given? They're like, 0. I'm like, okay, well, we have some work to do. Like that, it's not that that's not possible, but it's like when you learn how to play the piano, I mean, you need to start with the scales. There are some things that are going to help you get the ramp up to that point. And so I like to be really realistic with my clients. And I also want to make sure I understand, like, what are your dreams in terms of speaking, and can we get there? Can I help you get there? And if so, I definitely want to help you. If not, I'm going to refer you to someone else, or certainly be extremely honest with you about my experience. What we are going to share today, what I'm going to talk about, are the 7 keys that I've used to book over 500 speaking engagements. I mean, no holds barred. That is what we're going to cover tonight. We're going to cover some other things too, but I just want to make sure that you knew we were going to be getting that tonight. This is me back in 2013, and I like to share this particular picture. This was my first headshot as a speaker that I thought, like, I really love this one because it's kind of different. Looking back now, I've learned a lot about how to use photography in my marketing, and so this headshot was everywhere. It was on all my Facebook, it was on everything. And I don't recommend using this headshot. My photographer is great, wasn't her fault. I just didn't give her the right direction, and actually still use the same photographer. But what I will tell you, and this is to give you some hope here, back in 2013, I was like, oh, my headshot was a little, you know, kind of strange. So one of the things I'll share with my clients is, like, how do you maximize that photo shoot to where you can really start to use the stuff in your social media, use it in PowerPoints, use it in whatever you need to use professionally so that you look amazing and your branding is on point. So at this point, not necessarily when I got this picture taken, but certainly in 2013, I started with 0 speaking gigs, okay? So the speaking gig count was at 0. Client count was at 0. PowerPoint skills were below 0. Like, I knew how to use PowerPoint, I knew how to click the button, but I didn't know how to use it effectively in terms of creating a presentation. And now, even now, there's PowerPoint's a very complicated program, but I certainly know how to use it in order to make an effective presentation. So, you know, even one of the benefits of taking any of these master classes is that you also get to learn just by that. So if you're not even paying attention to the PowerPoint, then add that to your list of things to pay attention to, because there's things that I've invested in and for my own skills that I then pass on to my clients. So luckily, I had a coach who helped me and was very sweetly honest with me about how my PowerPoint needed some support and some help. So I learned a lot from her and from another coach as well. But I tell you this because I am hoping that it gives you some hope. Like, you don't need to have it all figured out. There's still lots of possibilities you can do. Because what I did have, here's what I did have in 2013. Is what I would call ignorance on fire. Like, I didn't know what I didn't know, but I knew that I was very passionate about what I was going to be talking about. So I was passionate about the topic, and I knew a lot about the topic, and that was that's a pretty powerful combination, you know. And I just was willing to be vulnerable. I was like, you know what, I'm willing to, what would you say, fail forward, right? Like, I will try this. I love speaking. I love what I'm selling here. I really believe in it. Let's go. Okay. So if you have any of that, we got everything we need. All the other stuff can come, and it's all going to come through experience, and it's going to come through trying, and it's also going to come through like who you are and what's important to you. Like, I was on a call with my what we call the Get Speaking Gigs Now Academy this morning, and each person is different, and each person has what they are okay with and what they're not okay with, and kind of their limits and higher limit and their lower limits and things like that. And so it's really like finding what works for you, and then pushing that a little bit more as you go, as you get comfortable, your new comfort zone. Okay, then let's go a step higher and a step higher. And that's an individual thing for you. So that's what I learned. Luckily, I learned a lot in that first year. And I will say in my first year, I booked 83 speaking engagements in 1 year. In my very first year, not knowing what most of this stuff is that I'm going to tell you about tonight. So the things that I've learned along the way, I would try to, that's what I figured out without knowing anything about speaking world or whatever. Like, but now I'm like bringing all the stuff that I learned and delivering it to you, so that you don't have to try to figure it out on your own like I did. So here's today. This is my book that launched at the beginning of this year. And now I've given over 500 talks since 2013. I continue to speak in all different kinds of platforms, certainly a lot more virtual now than I used to. Generated hundreds of clients. I'm the founder of the OC Speakers Network. I've had that group since 2013, still going strong. And I do have a bachelor's and master's in speech communication. Sometimes I forget to mention that, but I've always had a passion for speaking. But I wasn't a professional speaker till I was 40. So again, I was one of those people who had a dream, like I should be up there. How can I be a speaker? I didn't really know how to do it. But I knew that it was going to be fun, and I knew that I wanted to. So it's really exciting for me to kind of come full circle and do that. I also used to teach at Cal State Fullerton while I was getting my master's degree. I taught interpersonal communication. And to me, teaching is like the cat's meow. And it's not just teaching, I like facilitating. Like even I know that we're all here on this webinar. I wish we were here in person, or I wish I could see your faces. So that's why I'm going to give you a link to where we can touch base later. So I really do want to hear your questions and your dreams and your hopes and anything that's stopping you from fulfilling this dream. But anyway, I digress. I'm also an author. I already told you that. And I'm a mom. My daughter's 17. I'm a wife. My husband's a golf instructor. We met on Match.com. That's a whole nother webinar. Okay. All right. I also love 80s music and rock concerts. I'm really bummed because we were going to go see Foreigner this summer, but no, not going to see Foreigner. No big concerts now. We're also going to see Alanis Morissette, but no, we're not going to go see that. So all my summer concerts have been postponed, and hopefully will resume in 2021. All right. Today, we're going to go dive right into some content. I want to give you some mind shift skills and tools to shift from speaking success now, because I said, yes, even now you can attract clients through speaking. Then we're going to dive into the 7 keys to creating a successful speaking business and how you can attract clients now through speaking. Within that, I'm going to share the speaker monetization formula, because usually that's what people want to know. Like, yeah, how can I make money doing this? Like, what do I need to do? How can, show me the money. I just watched that movie, Jerry Maguire, with my daughter. She had seen it for the first time, and spoiler alert, that's one of the best scenes, the show me the money scene. Okay. Now, mindset shift for speaking success now. I have been hearing things from people that I think, oh dear, we don't want to go down that hole. And some of these things that I hear are, oh, it's just, it's a really hard time right now for everyone. No one has any money. People don't, people are really suffering and things like that. And it's not a good time to sell anything, right? So those are things that I hear in the ether, okay, from different people. And I get it. Sometimes those things are true. Certainly that is true for some people. And certainly it is true for some people right now. We are in a, this pandemic where we've never, ever, our entire globe has not had this experience before. So there's a lot of negative news and people who are in crisis and some fear increasing news. However, there are other ways to look at things, and we can't control the pandemic. We can't control the fear of other people. or the news, but you can control what you want to focus on and what perspective you would like to actively participate in. And so that's what this mind shift is about. And so I want to give you a couple things to try on. And that is move from waiting, if you're waiting, to innovating. And what I mean by that is when the shelter in place orders came out, I had, I'll have to count exactly, it was like 5 or 6 live in-person speaking engagements scheduled, okay, within like between March and May, something like that. So instead of waiting for them to tell me what they want to do, I got on the phone with them and said, here's what I'm ready to do. I can go on Zoom. I'm happy to step in as a virtual speaker. And this was right at the, like, I think I even had something like right at the like second week or third week or fourth week of March. So it was real soon after the shelter in place. And I was able to shift all of my speaking engagements to a virtual model instead of waiting for them to decide what to do. In fact, the first one that I did, I said, you can use my Zoom account. I'll host it, because they were, Zoom was new to everybody at that time. So sometimes I just got an email from someone else saying, well, I'm setting up my email system for when things get back to normal. That's waiting mentality. No, you need to set up your system so that you can tackle it right now. And what are you going to tackle now? And how can you innovate now? So if you catch yourself in that waiting mode, I want you to think, how can I innovate? How can I create something that'll be helpful to people right now? Okay, simple. I also want you to anticipate success. I had a really, and I'll back up, because sometimes we anticipate the worst, right? Especially if we're watching the news a lot. I mean, it would be pretty hard if you were just watching the news not to anticipate the worst, because that's what they talk about, the worst things that are going to happen, the worst things that are happening. And so that's how people can get bought into that, like, oh, no one's spending any money and it's a horrible time to sell right now. No. I want you to anticipate success. Here's a great example. Last week, I was on a eWomen Network meeting, which I'm a member of that network. And we were all on Zoom. It was like 60 or 70 people for a few hours. I think it was like a 3-hour meeting. It was our first Zoom meeting. We usually meet at the Center Club for lunch. And I had my virtual background, like I do right here. I had my virtual background, company and everything like that, and dressed, nicely and looking amazing now. And then find out, that was in March, or that was in April, then to find out last week that we were on CBS News. We were picked up in several different states, and I was on CBS News. And there's this one shot where it's like 9 squares, kind of like the Hollywood squares. So it's like 9 of us, and I'm right in the middle. Okay. So I didn't know that was going to be occurring, but when I say anticipate success, you just never know what's going to be out there. So anticipate someone seeing you and going, oh, wow, I like her branded background. Like, oh, what does she do? She really stands out, or he really stands out. Anticipate that people are going to come to you. Anticipate that something good is going to happen. Okay. Anticipate that people are going to want to work with you. So the other thing that, and this one's more like, if you're kind of having a hard time, because I get it, it can be a time that's scary, and there's a lot of doubt and fear out there. So if you're having a hard time getting there, here's what I do. And this is what I invite you to do with my perspectives here. Just try on someone else's and just say, like, you know what, this thought or this mindset that I have right now isn't really helping me get to my goal. It's not really helping me get where I want to go. So we want to make sure that you are able to borrow someone else's perspective to get you through that time. And that's what I do. Instead of just like, you know what, I'm just going to, and so you could just say, I'm going to borrow Lisa's perspective right now. I'm just going to anticipate success. I know I've got these other things going on, but I'm going to borrow hers. I'm going to try it on, kind of like trying on a new jacket or something for a little while. I'm going to just try it on. And then that can help you kind of move through that a little bit easier. That's what helps me. So I just wanted to share that. All right. So 7 keys to creating a successful speaking business. Let's dive into the 7 keys. Now, my first key is what I think is very, very important. It's called Get Your Talk Ready to Rock. And what I mean by this is you need to have, if you think of yourself as a speaker and you have all your expertise and your services and products or whatever you're developing for your business, maybe you're a coach or something like that. You, as a speaker, you need to have product on the shelf. And what I mean by product is a talk. Your product may just be one talk, needs to be on the shelf. Because once you say you're a speaker, or if you're going to tell anyone you're a speaker, or put it on social media, or put it in a newsletter, or say it, or claim it, the next question someone's going to ask you is, oh, well, what do you speak on? And that's your opportunity right there. So I always encourage all of my speakers to have that, like that's the first thing we're going to tackle, because then everything else just sort of calms there. Like, okay, you know what? I've got my talk. It's just sitting there on the shelf. It's good. You don't have to use that energy anymore to worry about what are you going to talk about and developing your talk. I have people who tell me they were working on their talk forever, like working on your book, writing your book for years. I'm like, it doesn't take years to write a book. It really doesn't. It doesn't take years to work on a talk. Now, do I work on my talk and change it over the years? Of course, but you got to get something out there, something done. So this is the one thing that I do one-on-one with people, is I spend some time with them and we actually dial it in and we get your talk ready to go. I had a session earlier today where it was like, let's start at the end, figure out what's your call to action, and then we're going to work it backwards. And it's a very powerful collaborative experience because we want to make sure that it fits you and that you feel like your words are coming through and who you are is coming through, and that you also have a strategy to get people to walk to the next step with you. Because if they don't know how to get a hold of you, or they're confused about what to purchase or how to contact you or how to get on your list or whatever, like, you're going to get in your car and you're going to leave, and you're going to leave with nothing. And I never want that to happen. Not on my watch. What we want to do is create something where you are serving the audience with something that has value and they are receiving it. And whoever those people are that really resonate with you are somehow attracted to you and follow you down that next step, whether that's actually purchasing something or getting a strategy call with you or getting on your mailing list, whatever that is that you've decided is your catch-all. You know, you're like, oh, I'm going to bring these people with me. Okay. But also done in a way that just feels really solid for you. It feels really good. You're not being anyone different. You're creating it something just for yourself, and it highlights who you are. And that's the magical part that happens in those sessions. It's like, and I have found that a lot of speakers try to do this on their own. And I don't know about you, but it's kind of hard to see ourselves, right? It's hard to also edit down all the knowledge that you have. I mean, you're talking decades of knowledge and expertise that you have, and then you're like, oh, you need to do that in like a half an hour. You need to, like, you know, how are you going to get all that down? So it's about editing and knowing what to say and what not to say and all that stuff. All right. Here is one of my clients, Lauren Powers. Now, she is a bodybuilder. You can kind of see her muscles there. She's pretty awesome. She was just in Justin Bieber's video. His latest video came out a couple months ago. And she is a very confident person, but would see other people speak and make all this money. And she's like, well, I put on these events, but like, I'm never the speaker. How would I actually get people to buy my product or buy my service? Like, what do you do? And so what we did is craft something that really worked for her and her style. And she's very like over the top and strong and powerful kind of words. And so that really worked for her. So that's just another example. And then she was able to use that at her big event. She had like over 100 people there, and then went on to have subsequent events and feel confident in front of everyone with the microphone and have a structured talk that really suited her style. And she can use that for, years to come. All right, now our second key is creating your ideal speaking gig pipeline. And what I mean by this is actually creating like your dream list or your list of people or places that you would want to go speak to. Now, at this point, it doesn't matter at this point if it's in person or virtual. You're going to need to adjust that as needed, as that comes up. You're going to, for now, like right now, I'm assuming everything's virtual until I hear differently. Okay. But one day we're going to be speaking in front of live people again. But same type of thing. The groups that you would go to speak are probably now meeting virtually anyway. So it's a great opportunity to practice. But if you don't have, this is especially true. Now, if you're a salesperson, if you have any experience in sales, you already know that you need a pipeline. If you've never really been in sales or never had any sales training, this is where you're like, what's a pipeline? Where do I get one of these pipelines? And a pipeline really just means, like, if you think about, like, the pipeline takes water from one place and it brings it to the other, and it kind of streamlines the process. Same thing, you need to create a pipeline where who is in your pipeline, like, and who would be prospects for you to speak to, who, what's the name of the person and the name of the organization, the website, when do they meet, who would you call, do your email, all those things. Like, that's you creating your pipeline. And you might have that. How you actually house that is a whole nother Oprah, but it might be in a CRM or an Excel spreadsheet or on a piece of paper. Like, you need to have one. Whether you put it on any of those three is fine, but I always say just use the system that works for you and the system that you're going to use. Otherwise, no point in making a system that you're not actually going to use. Okay, so here is a great example. Leslie Barber, she went through our Get Speaking Gigs Now Academy, and she is the founder of Grief Warrior. She's like this amazing writer, amazing coach, and she coaches people on grieving. And Leslie started to craft her list. Okay, where are my places? Now, she put places that were local to her that she knew and had some contacts at, but she also put a couple of fun, like, dream bucket list places on there. And guess what? She texted me a couple months later, boom, she got booked at one of her bucket list places. So that there's and I was talking about this in our call this morning. There's something about strategy plus magic equals, like, amazing things. So the getting the pipeline ready is your strategy. You got to have, like, got to start putting the action items into, like, who am I going to be calling? Who am I going to be reaching out to? And then also be like, dream a little, like, where would I want to speak? What would be super ideal? And are you ready? Getting yourself ready to say yes if you get that phone call. Say yes if you get that email. Yes, I'm ready. Here's my speaker sheet. Here's my set. We're going to get into that in a second. You have your talk ready. So all of this is laying tracks for you to be a successful speaker. And if you don't have these pieces in place, then you can dream about being a speaker, but not actually be a speaker yet. And sometimes it gets habitual to just dream about it. And I want you to actually, this is where I kind of referencing what I had said in the beginning of, like, if you're just hoping that you just, wiggle your nose and it all happens. No, there is some work to be done, but it's not impossible. It's not super hard. It's just going through some motions and some steps to get you ready to go. I consider speaking like a race, like, ironic because I don't actually like to run, but you have to get your shoes, in order to get in the race. You got to enter in the race to get, you got to train a little bit. So it's all those things. And then the race happens. And then what are you going to do after the race? How are you going to get another race? That's how I think of speaking. Okay, so monetize your speaking is a super hot topic. Okay, so there's a few ways that I use monetization, and this ends up being a very big topic that we really dial in the academy, so that each person who participates in the coaching section of our academy knows without a doubt exactly what their monetization plan is and their path. So, but I want to give you an overview of what you could be thinking about, because I know this is especially on your mind right now as we're going through, the current situation that we're in, but just, it's on everyone's mind anyway. Prior to this situation and after this situation, it's going to be on your mind, because you're building a business, not a hobby. You're like, how do I actually make money through speaking? How do I generate clients for my business in a way that's really fun and exciting? And money's a part of that. Okay, so this is what I call the speaker monetization formula. And this is after working with lots of different clients and figuring out, like, okay, what is it about money that they need to know? Why is this so confusing? Let's break it down. So it's really in a couple of different ways how I think about it this way. So one thing I want you to do, and you'll do this after this class is over, but I want you to create a monetization vision. And what that means is I want you to really get clear. It's kind of like an imagination process where I want you to get clear on how the money comes into you. How does it enter into your bank account? And I want you to think about all the different ways that it might enter and just imagine it. So this is the magic part of it, right? Like, and if you don't have any of that set up, then of course you're going to go do that later. Like, I say to myself, one of the things I'll say is I accept money in all forms. Like money comes to me in all different ways. People say, well, do you take cash? Sure. Yeah. Do you take check? Venmo? Okay. Yeah. PayPal? Sure. Square Up? Yep. Yeah, all those ways. So I want you to be able to create those different buckets or whatever. You don't have to have as many as those, but what's the easiest way for money to come into you? How do you want to direct people to give you money? And are you set up for that? So there's the logical part, the strategy part, like don't just vision about it, but then also have a plan. And further on in your vision, I want you to think about, okay, so if I were to give a talk, I was going to be a speaker, what would that look like afterwards? Or when in that process is money going to be coming into my life? Like, how are people going to be paying me for my services? And again, it might mean, oh, I get an alert on my phone that somebody just paid something. Great. Oh, I just got an alert from my bank account saying X amount of money came through. That's awesome. So I don't know what that's going to look like for you, but I want you to get comfortable thinking about it, because a lot of the times we just think about the talk and that's it. We think like, all I need to do is have my talk and that's it. And then you go and you have a talk and then everyone says how amazing you were and it's so wonderful. And then you get in your car and you're like, I don't actually, where's the money? You're like, oh, I guess I should have thought of that before. So I never want that to happen, not on my watch. So I want you to have a vision for that. Okay. Now we start to move from the magic into the strategy. Okay. What's the plan around that? Do I need to have, is it a slide in my PowerPoint? Is it a link that I'm sending people? Is it a payment link? Is it, back in when I would do online, in-person things, it was a piece of paper. I like to hand out paper and people would literally just put their credit card information on there. Worked for me. It's worked for me for years. Even with, identity theft and everything like that, I still have people do that. It's actually safer with me because I'm gonna go shred it. It's not going into it's not, you're not even, anyway, I won't even get into that's off topic. But monetization plan, okay? So how is it all gonna work? How is it gonna come into you? Okay. Now, there's multiple ways to monetize your talk. So here's where I want you to be thinking about the different ways. One of the things that I hear a lot in the speaking industry is that people think that the main way and the way that occurs to them is to be a paid speaker. They go, well, I don't want to speak for free. I want to get paid. And I'm like, okay, tell me more, because that's just one way that you can monetize your talk. And it's a great way to monetize your talk. And a lot of people do that. But when you're starting out, again, this is where we're learning the skills. Those talks where you're getting a keynote fee, would we say, is usually a little bit longer sales cycle, and it's typically an opportunity where you may not be able to offer any services, and it's typically like you go in that one time, but then they may not really ask you back again because they want someone different for the next year or the next event, right? Versus if you open up, remember trying on that perspective, those mindset tips. How else might I be able to monetize? Maybe I could monetize a Facebook Live. Maybe I could monetize a podcast, being a guest on a radio show, or maybe it's putting on my own event, even a virtual event or a webinar or a masterclass or something like that. So or maybe I share the stage with somebody else, or I do stage swapping with somebody, or I did a dual masterclass with somebody else. Okay, so there's lots of ways that you can monetize your talk, but I want you to be clear on what that means to you, because it's different for everybody, right? It's not the same exact thing for every single person. And how what your service is or your business, it's all very personal to you. And then what I want you to do is create a monetization menu. And this is kind of like a behind the scenes thing. This isn't the menu that you would, like if you think you go into the restaurant and they hand you the menu for the public. No, this is kind of the behind the scenes menu. It's for you, really for you only. But when you have a talk, I want you to have ways now ahead of time before you get started of different things that like, oh, you know what? I would offer, this, like let's say you're doing a half-hour talk and you're able to give an offer. So I want you to have a plan for that. How would I monetize that? What if it's an hour talk, but you can't give an offer? Okay, so how are you going to monetize that? And yes, there are ways to monetize even if you're not able to give an offer. I'm not going to go into that today, in our class, but that's certainly things that we talk about in our academy in depth, because that's important. You need to know that. But I want you to have a crystal clear plan on what that menu would look like. And why I say that to do that now, why is it so important to do that now? Lisa, why do you keep talking about money? It's because I mentioned it because people tend to forget about it and they don't talk about it yet. That's the main thing that they need to survive, to feed their family. And I don't mean it in a way that like is a bad thing. It's like, oh, being open to receiving it because you're giving value. You're giving your expertise, your years of schooling, your years of pounding the pavement, your years of all the studying that you've done and the patients you've seen and the clients that you've had. All that expertise is super valuable. You probably paid a lot of money or you at least spent a lot of time learning your expertise. It's super valuable. And I just hear so many speakers really lowering that value. And I like really want you to see your value. And so that's why I talk about this. But what I see happen is that people are scrambling like the night before their talk and coming up. I got an emergency text today from someone who's like, they asked me how much I should charge and I don't know, what should I charge? And I'm like, okay, this is why you have it planned ahead of time so that you're not panicked and stressed and needing to get an answer back and stalling. And then when you're doing that, you're actually like pushing the money away. And I want you to be open to receiving it to come in. Okay. So good. I love this conversation. I wish we were here in person together, but we're not. Here's Mark's a great example. He's the founder of Lead with Purpose. Mark is this amazing man who has incredible confidence, massive drive, incredible business skills, and he translated one of his areas of business and consulting to something that was really heartfelt and something that was like this inspiring new way of looking at family and family communication dynamics. And he is a great example of utilizing the monetization opportunities in all kinds of ways. He's a paid keynote speaker, my goodness. And I mean, he gets paid up $10,000 a talk, but he also goes and waives his fee to speak at groups that really make sense for him so that he can, offer memberships to his program or potentially get consulting clients. So he's got it in a way that he's like, okay, these things would work for me. This strategy works for me. And this is where I can tell that it'll monetize for me. But he's doing it in a way that is really in alignment with who he is and his goals and his company's goals. So just another example that you can do all different kinds of, there's not like this right or wrong way. It's like you can I think of it as a pie, like your money, money pie. Like, where are we going to get those slices of the pie? So I want to share that with you. He's great. All right. So now the fourth thing that I think is really important is having your systems needed to duplicate your efforts, meaning like, how do you get asked back again and again and again? So as you start to get busier as a speaker, you might book things well in advance. Like I have a talk that was going to be in June, but of course we scheduled it a year ago. Now it's moved to August. We'll see, hopefully, fingers crossed that will happen. But sometimes you plan stuff way in advance. And if you don't remember that conversation from a year ago, like you need to have systems that make sure you're going to be, in the right place at the right time with the right things. And so what I've done is taken all that hard work it for you in the academy, where we've got checklists and like, here's what you need. Here's all the equipment that you're going to need. And I'm not talking about expensive equipment. I'm just talking about like an adapter to the, like, this is the, I've had clients text me, what was the name of the adapter I need? I'm at Staples right now. Because sometimes I always say better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it, right? So little things like that. And these are kind of the things you learn along the way. Like, I'll give you an example. HDMI cable, I got a new laptop. It needs an or this was a while ago, but my new laptop at the time needed HDMI. It didn't use the other doohickey attachment thingy, the official scientific term. And most restaurants, if you go speak at a restaurant, and they have like a TV, instead of a projector, they use the TV as a projector. You need an HDMI cable to hook it to that. Well, I didn't usually have one, or I didn't have one at the day or whatever, but restaurants don't typically supply them because people accidentally take them. Like when they're packing everything up, now intentionally, unintentionally, I'm sure it's both are true, but then it gets kind of carried off and they're like, wait, where did the cable, and those are expensive. So having an HDMI cable is a good thing to have. Having like a power strip and an extension cord, those are good things to have. Just, you may not need it, but it's better to have it. It's not expensive. So when I say systems to get set up, I'm not talking about like some major huge expense. I'm talking about little things that are going to make your life so much easier, because what you want to do is you want to be able to get asked back again and again. And the more you can systemize instead of having to recreate the wheel every single time, the easier it's going to be. And then you get to focus on the things that you really love, serving your clients, and maybe it's content creation. I don't know what it is that you love, but we all have different things that we like. Okay. Develop your speaker sheet. So this is another thing that I had referenced earlier. And I will say that when I started speaking, I didn't know what this was. I'd never heard of it. So it's kind of one of those, like, you don't know what you don't know, right? Didn't know I needed one because I didn't know what it was. So sometimes people will ask me, well, do I have to have a speaker sheet? Do I need one? I say, so I say, well, I have lots of opinions about this. Number one, can you get a speaking engagement without one? Yes. How do I know? Because I've booked hundreds of speaking engagements without them. But if you know what it is and you can get one, I highly recommend it. And there's a couple reasons why. One, well, first, let me explain what it is. It's basically like a sales page for you as a speaker. So it doesn't have your products and services listed on it. It's selling you as a speaker, like highlighting you. And there's, several components to it, but you can Google it and see examples. But it's why I like having it is because it gives that confidence booster, that it shows, like, if you're a speaker and you have a speaker sheet, to me, it's like, oh, you're a legitimate speaker then. And I still doesn't make you a legitimate speaker. It just gives me it's an indicator that you have put your stake in the ground enough to where you've gotten a piece designed that has your topic on there, and you've got a professional photo, and you've kind of got your stuff all ready to go. So I think, oh, okay, now once you have it created, you got it created. You don't need to tweak it really too much unless you keep changing a bunch of things, but for the most part, it's something that'll last you for a long time. So I highly recommend getting one. But you need to have your talk ready to go before you give a speaker sheet, because that's going to be on the speaker sheet. So sometimes it's kind of like, well, I don't know if you should get one right away. You may want to do a few talks first, make sure that that's the title that you want and that you've tested it and things like that. Then go get one, or know that you're going to change it, once you have a few talks under your belt. And I say that because a lot of times your talk is going to evolve as you go. So keep your pipeline full is key number 6. This is where, we go back to the pipeline thing. So you say you create that first pipeline, and then you're like, okay, I got through those. Some people said yes, some people said no. Now what? Well, you need to have systems to keep it going. It's not just like it stops. And there's lots of ways that you could do that. I think I have a resource here for you. If I don't, I'll tell you at the end. But there's a lot of ways that you can make that easy on yourself. and you want to be able to, be asking for referrals from places that you've spoken. You want to make sure you show up on time and reliable and with a great attitude so that they want to refer you. There's some other things that I share in the academy that are really, really key to this. So lots of things that, let me share this resource with you, because it's not on the next slide. I must have accidentally taken it out. But if you go to GetSpeakingGigsNow.com/cities, like cities, that will give you a link to a source that gives a whole list. I don't give it away. It's a purchasable item, but they take a whole region and they've already done all this work for you. It's kind of like you already had your VA virtual assistant take care of everything for you, where they will say like the name of the place, the name of the person to contact, the phone number, the email, the website, and what kind of group that is that invites outside speakers. So if you want to get started, that's a great way to just have a huge list and start going through it. And that can keep your pipeline full for a long time. So that's a great resource. They didn't have the cities thing when I first started, but they have another service that I belong to. But it's just fantastic. I mean, it just takes all that admin out of the way, and usually speakers aren't super loving the admin work. So, and if you can always get a hack for that, I recommend it. Okay, the 7th key, you got to learn what to say to get booked to stay booked. Now, here's what I mean about you're going to either do this on the phone or in the email, right? Or both, combination of both. I kind of do both. And there's a power in scripts. Why I like to offer my clients the scripts is because I don't want you to stop yourself because you don't even know what to say at all. But when I give scripts out, it doesn't mean you have to read it exactly verbatim. It's like, so you have a starting point to find your own voice. Like, and what would typically happen? And these are things that I would typically say. And I know it enough to where I could just do it from, over and over again. And this is what I would typically say, because these are kind of your typical questions that you're going to ask and the questions that the person on the other line is going to ask you. And I like to create it in a way that it's like a one-call close. Like, we don't need to have several phone calls to figure out if I'm a good speaker for your event or not. We can pretty much figure it out right then and there. It's okay if it's a no. I'm fine with that. And it's okay for me if I'm a no for that event. But it's a collaboration between the two of us. What we want to know is what I'm going to talk about going to be helpful for your audience? And that's all we need to help figure out. And, that's our starting point. So we have this mutual purpose. So you want to be able to figure that out. And same with the email templates. Like, I don't want that to get in your way of a speaking engagement, or because anything could kind of stop us when we have these big dreams. We can, something like that, something as small as that, well, I don't know what to email, I don't know what to say, could get in the way. And so I just want to always make sure that's clear, so that that pathway is clear. So really learning what to say to get booked and stay booked helped me. And I started out, like I said, ignorance on fire, where I just picked up the phone and asked people, and luckily some of them said yes. Yay. But now I've got a little bit more dialed in, and it's not slick and tricky or anything like that. It's just, how are you yourself treating this person like a human being and going for the same mutual purpose together. So those are the things that that I highly recommend, that you either create your own script, or if you start in our academy, certainly you'd have access to all that, and then you could practice those scripts with someone else, so that by the time you actually get on the phone with someone, you've got it dialed in. And you can even if you live alone, you can practice with your dog, your cat, or your closet. Anyway, you just say it out loud, you just pretend, you role play a little bit. It's a little awkward, but it's free, and it's easy to do that. Okay. All right. So one of the reasons that I sometimes people say, like, well, why are you sharing all this stuff? Like, why do you keep offering these classes, Leisa, and your academy and things like that? And for me, I really believe that everybody has a gift. Everybody has a gift. And for me, how I hear that gift is like their expertise or their knowledge. So you have something within you you've been drawn to, over time, and you just keep coming back to it, and it's exciting to you. And the more that you learn about that thing or that skill or that gift that you have, that like that's your stuff, that's your gift. And I believe that it's sharing that gift is part of why we're all here. We are not all good at everything. What we can't be. So how we raise each other up is by sharing those gifts to those who can benefit. So we all have problems and we all have solutions that we can offer. So it's kind of this inner exchange of those two things. And so that's my gift apparently is, yes, one of my gifts is speaking, but one of my gifts even more than that is coaching and hearing the objections someone might have to their dream, and hearing what strategies they need to understand and implement to get closer to that dream and to start moving forward. One of my gifts is activation. How do we activate your dream into taking it from here and here to outside of you and to the world and offering it to other people? And that is huge. That's important to me. And so I think of myself as kind of like the drop in the pond and like the ripples, like the more speakers that get on stages and share their message, then they affect the people who need to hear their gift, and so on and so on. So it's just kind of like, that's just my contribution to like my drop in the pond of how I can help raise all of our consciousness together. So I just thought I'd share a little bit about that. Certainly if you have a dream to speak, which you probably do because you're here on the call, then I would want to do everything in my power to help you share that gift that you have. And one of the ways that I do that is in my Get Speaking Gigs Now Academy. I'm not going to go into depth with that now, but I did want to allow a link. I'll share a link with you so that if you'd like to connect with me one-on-one, we can chat about that. You can certainly find it out, information on my site, but I do have a special for people that were on this call. It's not posted anywhere, so we can talk about that on the phone. I'll share you really quickly the Academy. It's going to look very similar to what we've talked about, but instead of just hearing conceptually about it and having to go figure it out on your own, these are pieces that we actually walk through together in the actual Academy. Or if you're doing it on your own, there's one level of our Academy where you can get all the videos and all the handouts, and it's a self-guided situation. So we go through Get Your Talk Ready to Rock. We create your ideal speaking gig pipeline, like where you learn how to do that. You get an Excel sheet of like, how would I fill this in? You get resources. How would you monetize your speaking engagements? Like coming up with your plan, learning those systems. How do you get asked back again and again and again? That is super, we talk about work smart, not hard. You definitely want to be able to get those referrals coming in. How would you start getting your speaker sheet ready? What pieces do you need? How can you whip that up? Like I had one of my Academy members got offered a speaking engagement because, that's what starts happening when you start putting energy towards this. And she was like, I don't have my speaker sheet together. So we just like whipped something together and she checked it and good. And she was good to go. Let's send it and go. Keeping that speaking gig pipeline full in a way that makes it easy. So you're not cold calling. So you're actually with other people and collaborating with other people. So powerful. And then of course, all those scripts, like how do you get that one call closed? Yes, it can absolutely happen. It's not a magic pill. It's like, it's way easier than you think. And just being able to be comfortable enough where you have all your stuff ready so that you are super confident, not cocky, but confident when you get on those calls. So that's why I created the Academy, because people kept asking me over and over, how did you get this many speaking engagements, Leisa? What in the heck are you doing? And it took me a while took me a couple, like a year really to think back, like all the different things that I did to get those results. And it was a combination of all these 7 things. Some things like a speaker sheet, it's just kind of a sort of one and done project. But the other ones are, sometimes you're spending energy on your monetization. Sometimes you're spending energy on the pipeline, and it ebbs and flows. But it's a combination of all 7 that have continued to give me this success. And what's super cool is that once you know how to do this, then even if you went to move to a different state, country, you still, all rules apply. And even if you changed your field or you decided to create a new talk, like I was coaching with one of my clients today on, we were getting her talk ready to rock, and we created one talk, but in that we realized that there's actually a second talk that's going to help her for her future vision. So we kind of put that one in the parking lot, but like now she's got the template down, she can like take it and start to create her second talk already, which is super exciting. So obviously I get a little excited about all this stuff. It's pretty cool. So I want to share how you can get in touch with me. This is a great time if you have questions. I want to hear what your vision is. What's your goal for speaking? Are there any gaps in that? Like what's keeping you from moving towards those goals? And if I can help you fill those gaps, I will tell you. If I can't, I will try to refer you to somebody else. I mean, I just want to make sure you get to fulfill the dreams that you want to fulfill. But it's just GetSpeakingGigsNow.com/chat. That'll take you directly to my website, or no, it'll take you directly to my calendar page, and you can find some time on there for us to talk. I will say too that if you do decide to take advantage of that call, and please remind me, as I might forget, but I want to give you a couple little bonuses too. And these are, one is avoiding the PowerPoint pitfalls. This is just something, I put this together because it's not in the academy, but I have some opinions about PowerPoint, and I see PowerPoint violators all around, and I know I don't want that to happen to you. So I want to make sure you get that. And then also speaker solutions to staying profitable without leaving the house, because that was something that was really relevant right now, that is really on a lot of people's minds, especially speakers. And I will say 100% possible. I certainly have generated clients during sheltering in place, and I know 100% that you can too. So I wanted to make sure and give those bonuses to you. Please, if I don't remember to send them to you, I will. I just might. I just, feel free to remind me of that, because I want to make sure you get those. So go ahead and grab your spot now. GetSpeakingGigsNow.com/chat, and you can go ahead and do that right now. And I'd love to see you on my calendar so I can get to know you better if we don't already know each other, and that hopefully all of this was helpful. I absolutely loved being with all of you today. I'm going to stop the share right now and just say my best wishes to you. Thank you for spending an hour with me. I truly appreciate your time, and I look forward to talking to you soon.